I'm Femi Oke. This episode of the stream requires a warning. We are going to be talking about rape, torture, and the sexual harassment of women in Bangladesh, and with the women who will not necessarily see any justice. So, if you need a moment to leave the room, if you're watching with somebody who needs to leave the room, I will give you that moment. Meanwhile, on YouTube, sexual violence against women is not particular to Bangladesh. It happens all over the world. So wherever you happen to be, if you have a comment, you have a question for our guest, you know what to do. Jump into the comment section and you too can be part of today's show. I will say hello to the guests. The guests will introduce themselves to you. Jazeera, please tell everybody who you are. Welcome to the stream.
Thank you. I'm Sultan Mohammad Zakaria. I work at Amnesty International as a South Asia researcher, mainly focusing on Bangladesh.
Welcome. Hello, Sarah. What do we need to know about you for today's discussion? Hello. Welcome to the stream.
Hi, thanks a lot for having us. I'm Sarah Hussain. I'm a lawyer and I practice in the Supreme Court in Bangladesh.
Good to have you. Shuprova, nice to have you on the stream. I wish it was under better circumstances. Introduce yourself to the world.
Hi, thank you. My name is Shuprova Tasneem. I'm a Bangladeshi journalist and I focus on gender justice and human rights issues.
Hello, guests. I'm going to start on my laptop with a political cartoon and share it with you because it pretty much sums up the challenges that the stream had trying to get in touch with officials from the Bangladesh government to join us in this conversation. So it says 4 more girls get raped in Bangladesh every day, yet the law takes no action. Why? Because a significant percentage of the rapists possess political power, hence they can get away with rape or even murders. So if you get raped or killed in this country, you won't get any justice. And there's the figures of authority sitting there, not paying any attention, survivor at the desk. I felt that was a little bit like trying to do outreach to the Bangladesh government to talk about this subject. Shuprova, you have been reporting on protests in Bangladesh about sexual violence against women. Why are people protesting now? Sexual violence against women is not new in Bangladesh. What happened?
So this is not the first time that we've had protests. And I think what has really catalyzed it now is last week there was a video was released of a really violent and brutal gang rape that happened in Bangladesh. But even before this video was released, we were still talking about 2 distinct cases, 2 gang rapes, one in Sylhet and the other in the Chittagong Hill Tract that were already dominating media headlines, and there were already protests over those issues as well. So this release of the video was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, really. And that's kind of what kickstarted this mass outrage where people took to social media and also took to the streets to ask justice. And, you know, while they've been unified in their call of justice, there's been different demands and different debates that have come up from the protesters as well.
Let me just bring in Anwalia Khan. And she was, as you said, outraged by this video going viral. And Sarah, I want you to pick up from her comments here because it's more than just a viral video. Let's take a look.
There is a viral video of a woman in
Let's try and play that one. Let's see if we can. Okay. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get that video. Sarah, people have been outraged by this video, which is now legally been asked to be taken down. You can't see it, except that it's almost impossible to remove it from everybody's social media feed. But the idea that this would be a catalyst for more protests, what is the biggest story that we should be looking at here, Sarah?
Well, as Shuprova said, a lot of the demands are around focusing on the issue of impunity, but the demands are around asking for punishment and ensuring that those who commit rapes with impunity do receiving punishment for that, do end up being convicted. But I think the really main beyond the issue of convictions and trials going to a conclusion, the bigger issue is why women who face this kind of egregious violence can't seek justice in the first place. And I think there are many activists on the streets also raising that point, that we have to have the right to seek justice. And more important than that, we have to end this rape culture. The fact that women are terrified, and it's a reality that this kind of violence can happen to you on the streets, in public places, even in workplaces and so on. And I think it's that united voice against rape culture now is a chance to kind of make a difference, but to focus on the fact that women can't seek justice in these situations.
I'm just going to share...
There's so much stigma, intimidation.
Yeah. I'm just going to share ASK's page here, so we know what we're talking about, kind of, because rape and sexual violence and torture are always underreported. So ASK, a legal aid and human rights organisation, just stand by for what we're looking at here. So this is January through September, the number of women that they've been able to monitor who have been raped, attempted rapes, people who have died from being raped, people who have committed suicide after being raped. On YouTube, the commenters are saying all we need is justice, and we want to be able to walk the streets safely. Jazeera, justice. How do women get justice? Actually, families get justice. Women are connected to families. It's not just about women, it's about the entire community.
Yeah, I would like to highlight the anger part a bit. First of all, to me, I think the gruesome nature of the violence and how the women has been treated. So that created a shocking way. And the second thing is what Sarah and Shubhrova actually spoke about. There is a deep sense of injustice prevailing in the society, primarily due to the lack of punishment. I'm just giving you one statistics, one number. According to the One Stop Crisis Center data that actually we cited in our press statement, only 0.37% cases the punishments have been served. So overwhelmingly, I mean, 99% of the cases, the perpetrators get away with it. And the third is there is a waning trust on the political actors and the institutions. I can expand that later, but I'd keep a bit here now. And fourth is there is a political angle. In recent years, there is a deep sense, I mean, there is a serious concern about the state of democratic representation in the society. So there is a deep sense of disenfranchisement, how the society is run, how the state is run. So I think a combination of all these factors have created a situation where we now live at a very typical, I mean, tipping point.
We have to, Jazeera, we have to be very candid in this conversation, and I'm going to ask Sarah and Shubhrova to help me here, because even the definition of what it means to be raped is a very specific definition that doesn't help women report it, survive it, and then get justice. Let me start with Sarah. Can you explain how rape is seen in Bangladesh in the legal terms, but so that everybody can understand?
Sure, I'll try. Rape is defined actually still under a law from almost over 150 years ago, a law left by the British colonial rulers called the Penal Code. And in that definition, we have had a more recent law, even that is 20 years old now, which deals with violence against women. But in that old definition, a rape is defined in very narrow terms, and it requires penetration first, very strong penalties for different forms of sexual assault. A rape is
Sarah.
and then I'm outraging modesties at the other end.
All right. So I'm going to help ask Shapova to pick up a little bit because we're having trouble hearing your audio. Shapova, would you just finish off that definition for why it is difficult for women to actually say, I have been sexually assaulted or raped in Bangladesh? It's about the definition.
Yeah, I mean, like Sarapa said, the way we define rape is really a part of our colonial legacy. So it's very, very specific in our country. You know, it has to be a specific form of penetration. We don't consider marital rape to be rape. The rape of boys, I think, is not, I don't know what happens according to case law, but according to the actual written code, it's not considered to be rape in that sense. So there are definitely a lot of concerns about the definition, just the way the legal processes work. Like, there's also a lot of concern over the fact that during rape trials, you're allowed to use character evidence, so you can actually question the morality of the rape survivor when she is it's like this rape survivor herself is going on trial and not the rapist. So there are a lot of kind of institutional bias against women that is a cause of concern. But having said that, there's also a wider culture of shaming. There's we've really been talking a lot about rape culture, and I think that's truly unique about these protests, is that people are really pointing that out. They're saying that, why are rape survivors so afraid of coming to the police? Because in this specific case, in the video that went viral, it only went viral because the rapists themselves released it. And once this, kind of took over social media and people started to talk about it and a case was lodged, only then did it come out that this woman had previously been abused a number of times by this person, and he's the leader of a local gang. And she was never able to go to anyone and talk about it. And I think it's very telling that the rapists themselves released the video to humiliate her.
It was like for fun, and so. Yeah. There's so much impunity that they can release the video. How would you think you could commit a crime like this and release the video? Here's I've got some questions for you, guests. Let me just share these with you. Shafayat, thank you. Rape should not be tried in civil court. Justice delayed and denied. There should be different bench and justice system for rape cases in our country. So that Shafayat is in Bangladesh. Is that possible, Jakaria? Having a different court that can actually look at sexual assault, rape, etc. Is that even a legitimate possibility?
We have actually some special arrangements. Right. So we have this. Just let me give you an example. So we have special tribunals to try these cases. I think 95 odd countrywide, and of course, we also argue that these courts have to be, I think, more. You have to spread it out and more geographic coverage, more numbers, and giving the logistics and resources. Absolutely, the number of judges,
so that's
officials
already,
of it.
That's already in place. Yes, Sarah, go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, can I just come in? It's not that we need special courts. We have special courts. They're called special tribunals on violence against women and children. We've had them for 20 years. Right. So that's not really the issue. Right. The issue is about what happens in the court, and the even bigger issue is about what happens before you get to court, right? So people are focusing a lot on the issue of the legal process. We're also very concerned with the laws and the changes that need to happen and so on. But really a critical thing is, how are we enforcing what already exists? How do women get access? How do they get their complaints lodged? When they're being terrified, they're being intimidated, they're being told if they seek justice, they're liars, they're being defamed, their families are being threatened, the people they work with are threatened. How do we work in that situation? That's really the context you have to deal with. And as Shubhrabha says, the rape culture is the big thing to address. And that also, unfortunately, carries on partly through the legal process. In the investigation, women are challenged time again about whether what they're saying is true or not. When they get into court, we still have these almost 200-year-old evidentiary processes. That means that women aren't believed. They're questioned about their past sexual history.
Let me just bring in Lucy Ray.
We had a test called the two-finger.
Yes. Okay. So is about to describe an egregious practice which involves penetrating a woman to check to see if she has indeed been sexually assaulted, which again is an assault in itself. Let me head across to Lucy Ray. Lucy Ray was looking at how we get out of this situation. How do we improve the situation for women who are survivors, and then so that women don't even have to be survivors? This is Lucy Ray. Let's have a listen.
The protests that are currently taking place on the streets of Bangladesh are a culmination of years of frustration and lack of action of culprits of sexual savagery held to account. For example, we're dealing with a 12-year-old girl in Sylhet who suffered horrific abuses. We're calling on the government to take a stand and appoint a minister to allow these women to come forward and their families to come forward without fear of reprisals or victim shaming. These perpetrators need to be held in account, taken to court, given lengthy sentences that fit the crime.
So I want to go back to YouTube here. Ahana Khan. Ahana, thank you. Can you please explain to us the punishments under Penal Code for rape? What are the punishments right now? Sarah, go ahead.
Should I go ahead? Yes.
Yeah, please. Please go ahead.
So the punishments, yes, thanks. So the punishments, if it's rape followed by death, it's murder. If it's rape followed by murder, there's a death penalty. And there's a gradation of, and there's a life sentence otherwise for rape, which is the penalty. At the moment, there are demands being raised by many, and our government is also considering whether to impose the death penalty simply for acts of simple rape, not followed by murder. Now, one of our concerns is that what we've seen in the past is having either the death penalty or having a mandatory life sentence often means that courts are even more, are not willing necessarily to impose the highest sentence where they see that there are many problems with the prosecution, with the legal process. So one of our demands, as I said, there are many demands, there are many people demanding the death penalty, but one of the demands many of us working in the legal system and with women are saying that we don't necessarily want that. What we want is for there to be a proper sentencing guideline so that proportionate punishments can be given in relation to the egregious acts, but also taking into account particular characteristics of the accused, for example. It may be a person who's mentally ill, it may be a young person or a child who's a perpetrator. You have to take those things into account. You can't have a one-size-fits-all kind of solution. So that's also important to consider. And
yeah, there's some confusion on our YouTube audience, amongst our YouTube audience. Jakaria, maybe you could take this. So Keith, my question, why is rape happening? We always have these conversations, but never hear solutions. Maybe we should educate, monitor citizens. People should be alarmed because there are so many rapes. Jakaria, can you answer that? Is it even possible to answer that? I mean, can anyone answer that in any part of the world?
It's a very tricky question. I think a part of that has already been discussed, that we have a completely dysfunctional legal regime that we fail to punish the perpetrators. And just to add two elements to it, that in addition to the definition and the evidence management part, there is another concern is the witness protection. The victims and witness continue to fear the violence. And the second element is that in the broader society, we have to question where is the rule of law. I mean, you can have the world's finest legal regime and the law, but if, as Haras said, that if the laws are not applied equally, without discrimination, if the processes are not efficient, if the law enforcement agencies are not behaving professionally in their modus operandi, if the executive of the officials are not restrained by the limits set by the law. So all these questions have implications in the dispensation of justice. And the third and final one, I'd like to say that the deeply embedded social structure and the behavioral aspects, right? The misogyny is real, the patriarchy is real. So how do we address that? And we have to deal with them individually. And finally, what I would say that there is a lack of political will, because we have female prime minister for for the last 3 decades, except two years. So 3 decades, the country is ruled by the female head of the state, head of the government. And you see, I have a graph here, you see the number of rapes and violence against women are just increasing, right? So between 2018 to 2019, there is a 70% jump.
Jacaria, if I may, let me add one more thought, and this is from UN Women. This is Shoko Ishikawa, who comes with some solutions to this huge problem. Let's have a listen.
The UN would like to see a comprehensive review of the handling of rape cases in the justice system so that we can better understand where the delays and the attrition of sexual violence cases take place, and we can initiate reform. We also need to close the gaps in the laws and invest more in the special courts for women and children that handle sexual violence cases so that victims are protected and the speedy trials take place. In all of this, the death penalty is not an answer to sexual violence. Death penalty does not serve the interest of the victims, and it also does not deter crime.
I'm just looking here at a recent headline. Bangladesh molds death penalty for rapists as protests rage. I am wondering, guess, where you would like to use the power, the energy of these current protests. What would you like to happen? Very briefly, we're in the last 1 minute of the show. Shaprova, what should happen next? In a sentence.
I think obviously the government has to judge the public mood, and as Saraba said, unfortunately a lot of people have asked for death penalty, but I think what it really shows is that people are calling for exemplary punishment, and they're calling for punishment. So in the short run, they should definitely ensure that these cases are seen through, but in the long run, we do need to see reforms in the law, and we do need to see that more women have access to justice.
Let me share this last minute with Sarah as well. Sarah, one thing that you would want right now, what's possible?
What everyone is united in is wanting justice. And justice means the right to be able to seek justice, to see it through, to get protection for a victim as well as punishment for a perpetrator. We need to stand with the victims. We need to enable them to seek justice. That's what I want to see.
All right, very good. Jacaria, you came armed with so much information, but if we boiled it down to one thing that could happen right now in a sentence, Jacaria.
One thing is I'd like to add is the regaining trust in institutions and the rule of law, and I would say the political will is, of course, is the fundamental. Without it, I don't see that things are moving in the right direction.
I really appreciate you. This is such a difficult subject even to talk about. YouTube, thank you for your questions, your thoughts, your suggestions as well. And also thank you to Sara, Jacaria, Shaprova as well for looking at the impunity that appears to be happening around rape, sexual assault and torture of women in Bangladesh. Appreciate your time today. Take care, everybody. See you next time.